the iPhone SE is a scam, and this may sound like a really bold claim, but there are many reasons for this, and we shall be going through them in this video together. First reason is, as you can see in front of you, on the left you've got the first iPhone SE, in the middle the iPhone 8, and on the right the current iPhone SE. And doesn't the iPhone 8 look so similar to the current iPhone SE? Yes, because the parts it uses are the same or very similar. So the parts you are using, you're going to get in this new iPhone SE, are actually outdated by maybe 5 years. And technology's moved on a lot in 5 years. And I just find this really awful from Apple to be selling people things that are 5 years old. Number two is the value for money. Now, the iPhone SE on paper may seem like quite a good deal. If you look on its website, it shows it's got a powerful chip for only £399. But when you compare it to other options like Xiaomi Poco F3, which I'll be comparing it to in this video, that costs less and it is far better. So we shall be looking at that. But first, let's have a look at what it says on the Apple website. Okay, so this is the Apple website, and it has some bold claims. Lots to love, less to spend. And I think that there are several bits on its website that are very misleading. Now here it says our powerful A13 Bionic chip, but that's a chip that's 2 generations old, and even though you may think it is still very powerful, chips in other phones have moved on a lot since then, and this chip, even though it is still good for the price, there are chips that are far better that you can get for a cheaper price in phones nowadays. Now, if we go down, everything looks fine until you get to this bit. Brilliant 4.7-inch Retina HD display. It's an LCD display, and for £400, I think you deserve better. Other companies will give you an AMOLED or a display, but for 4.7 inches, that is not acceptable in 2021. If we iPhone 11 Pro called back, it wants its chip back. Well, we're now on iPhone 13, so I don't know why they're talking about a phone that is 2 generations old. I think that this is it's bad marketing, really. It's almost misleading, because it's like I could say the iPhone 6 wants its chip back, or the iPhone 6 feels bad, it's been beaten, but like, that's an old phone. I am not going to compare another phone to the iPhone 11 right now. Apple is comparing its new iPhone SE to a phone that is 2 generations old. And if we go down, portrait mode, all of these things about the camera are good until you come down to this bit here. High definition video and 4K. They're making a big deal about 4K. We're in 2021. When this phone came out last year, maybe 4K meant a bit more than it does now. But now I can find 4K on phones that are £200. I can find good 4K. So I don't really understand why they're making such a big deal of it. It's no longer special for a £400 phone to have it. A £200 phones now have it, and it's standard. So I think that, yeah, they can make a big fuss about it, but it's not one of the big selling features. They're making a big thing about the home button, but I mean, it's a button. It's a way you sign in. I don't think that's one of the selling features. And certainly having this old, outdated design, which has components from the iPhone 8, is definitely not a selling point. This is not modern. This is outdated by 5 years. This is not how smartphones look like nowadays. And if we carry on down, this here, they're selling how it survives splashes, sploshes, how it's water resistant. Most phones nowadays are. Lots of budget phones are. Phones that are cheaper, lots of mid-range phones are. So this here, it's like they're not saying we're better, they're saying we're just as good. And they're making a big deal about the battery life, and it's well known that the iPhone SE's battery life is dreadful. Dreadful. I don't think they should be able to make a big deal about the battery life, because the battery life on this is not something to be proud of. And I mean, yes, great, it has support, but so do other phones. Making a big deal about the colours. So I think we're at the end here, but point is, the marketing's a bit misleading in places. I don't think anything on here, on Apple's website, is actually makes this special. Look at this design here. I know you can't see all of it, but how outdated is that? The bezels on it, the giant home button. I mean, if you see someone walking around with a phone that looks like this, you'd think they're still using their iPhone 6. This isn't modern technology. This is outdated technology, and this is why the iPhone SE is a scam. Okay, so let's go back to comparing these two phones. The iPhone SE in the UK is £400. You can get this Poco F3 for £300. So we need to bear that in mind. It costs £100 less. But for that price, if we go down here, you get better performance. The big deal they make about this chip, this is what I was saying. Things have moved on. Over 2 years, chips can improve a lot. And this Poco F3 has an incredible chip that is basically a slightly better chip than last year's flagships. And I think that this is not all phones that are £300 have this, but I think that the Poco F3 is a great example of how you can get great performance at a low price. The display, Poco F3 absolutely destroys the iPhone SE. The display is dreadful on the iPhone SE, not just because of the bezels, but also because it's LCD. And then camera is slightly beaten. It's the same roughly. Battery is destroyed. Connectivity is destroyed. And overall, it's destroyed. By the way, I'm using Nano Review here. They're great for comparing different phones together. And I want to send them a thank you because it's such a great software. So first, let's look at the display. AMOLED compared to LCD. I mean, we're talking about Apple here. They're supposed to be premium. They're supposed to be giving the best. It doesn't look like it to me. By the way, the green areas is the one that's better. Okay. Pixel density is far better on the Poco F3. And that 326 pixels per inch is not what I expect from a good Apple phone. Refresh rate, 60 Hz in 2021, 2022 is not good enough. 120 Hz is really good, especially for the price, £300. But 60 Hz, that is not good enough. I mean, I could live with it, but it's not what you expect for £400. And the screen to body ratio, I have no word for this. It's like night and day. It's not even close. It's just, I don't know. I guess the only occasion I can think that someone would you have this. Look, let's go to the top. Look at the design difference. The only time I can think of someone using that design is if an elderly person who can't really finds it a bit hard to use a phone. But I mean, really, is an average person going to go for such an outdated design and maximum brightness? I expect Apple to be making better displays for their phones, like design and build. Now, obviously, the iPhone SE will win because it's smaller and lighter, but I mean, it's all pretty much the same. The material's the same, just the frame material is slightly better. So I guess you could say the iPhone SE is better. But then when you look at the screen to body ratio, it's not even close. You get 31% more screen on the Poco F3. And I think that just shows how good the screen is. Now the performance here, the Snapdragon 860 chip on the Poco F3 also gives it 5G, which the iPhone SE does not. And I think that for it to be really future-proof, I think that these new phones have to have 5G on it. So I think that if you're buying a phone that's 4G, just you need to bear that in mind because its value is going to drop really quickly. And I mean, look at the RAM size. Poco F3, 6 or 8 GB. iPhone SE, 3 GB. Is that what came with the iPhone 8? Maybe. But it's not what you expect from a £400 nowadays, for a £100 phone nowadays. Nowadays you can get £400 phones that have got 6, 8, 12 GB of RAM. It's not acceptable. Storage starting at 64 gigs. Don't go for that. I don't think you should go for this phone at all, but definitely don't go for that storage option because you're going to need more. Now, single core, the iPhone SE is better. Multi-core, they're the same, but Antutu, the Poco F3 absolutely obliterates the iPhone SE. And considering it's £100 less and you get better performance, and also Apple makes a big deal about their powerful chip. I think it's a disgrace from Apple. Right, battery. Less than 2,000 milliamperes on the iPhone SE. That's not acceptable. The battery life on it is dreadful. And as for charge power, I know that Apple plays it safe with the battery charging speeds, but really 18 watts? I know it's a small battery, but really 2.5 hours to charge it up? That's not good enough. And I know it has wireless charging. I don't really buy into wireless charging, apart from free electricity at McDonald's. I don't really know why you use it. It's so slow. I could just as well plug a cable in. It's not like I can walk around and it will keep charging. I still have to sit there and watch it charge. And look, this just shows it. The battery life on this iPhone SE is dreadful. Do not buy it. Unless you're someone who barely ever uses it, or an elderly person, that's the only person I would recommend it to. Anyone else, do not buy this phone. Camera, I know, resolution's not everything, but when it's digital zoom, it makes a difference. I know the iPhone SE's got optical stabilization and 4K 60, but really that doesn't make much difference compared to the slow motion, and also how it has 2 extra lenses. And I know that the macro lens here is really a filler. It's not really useful as such, but the ultra wide lens is definitely usable at 8 megapixels. And I think that having one camera nowadays in 2021, 2022 is not acceptable. It's not good enough. As for the selfie camera, 7 megapixels is respectable, and 1080p 30 from both of them is respectable, but it shows that a phone that's £100 cheaper does not only compare with a phone that costs £100 more and is from Apple, it destroys it. Right, let's go down and... Okay, so this thing here, it's analysed everything, and it definitely thinks that the Poco F3 is a better buy. And here, people have voted on which one they think's a better buy. Everyone's chosen the Poco F3 because when you go through the specs and you compare them, the Poco F3 is a great phone, and the iPhone SE is absolutely dreadful for the price. So let's just go back up to the top again. You can save £100 by getting the Poco F3, and what do you get? You get a lot more. You get a better display, you get a better performance, you get same camera, but you also get a better battery. You get 5G, better connectivity, and an overall incredible phone. That's why you should not buy the iPhone SE. In summary, you get outdated parts, you get old parts, you get you're misled on the Apple website. Awful outdated design, gigantic bezels, small tiny LCD screen after you take the bezels off, and also a overrated chip inside it, which itself is not too great. Actually, I just want to show you something about the chip. Okay, so I've just gone to the processors ranking, and it shows all of the different processors and how good they are, and it ranks them basically. So here at the top we have A15 Bionic, and we go down. Remember, this is IA13 Bionic. This is 9th place, and it is still good, but if we press on it, it's like gaming performance is 75, CPU performance is 84, and if they're advertising this as world's greatest, if they're advertising it as like record breaking, incredible chip for incredible price, I don't think that it is an incredible chip anymore. It's in ninth place, and even though, look, directly below it is the Snapdragon 870 chip, which is in the Poco F3, but Poco, they optimize the performance. So actually, the performance in the Poco F3 is better after you've taken efficiency and performance. And I just think that for the price, Apple's really made a big mistake. For the price, it's the end. Not the end for Apple. I think it's a catastrophe. Do not buy this phone. Repeat, do not buy it. I think it's a disaster if you buy it. It is still a good phone, but it should not be £400. It should be £200. I just think that the iPhone SE is just awful. Do not buy it, please. I beg you. Do not buy it.